Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of FluentCast. This is Diego, your host, and today we're diving into something really fun and, well, quite essential for anyone looking to master English, idioms. Yeah, those quirky, colorful expressions that, when taken literally, make absolutely no sense. But, they add so much flavor to the language. So let's explore some common English idioms, their meanings, and where they come from. Trust me, this will be both educational and entertaining. All right, so let's kick things off with one of my favorites, bite the bullet. Ever heard someone say they need to bite the bullet? It means to face a painful situation with courage. The origin of this idiom is quite fascinating. Back in the day, during wars and before anesthesia was commonly used, soldiers would bite on a bullet to cope with the pain of surgery. It's a grim image, but it perfectly captures the idea of facing something tough head on. For example, you might say, "I hate going to the dentist, but I'll have to bite the bullet and make an appointment." Or, "She decided to bite the bullet and tell her boss the truth about the mistake." Moving on, another idiom that's pretty common is break the ice. We often use this when we're trying to make people feel more comfortable in a social situation, right? Like if you're at a party and it's a bit awkward, someone might tell a joke to break the ice. This phrase actually comes from the practice of breaking the ice in a frozen river to allow boats to pass through. It's all about making things easier to navigate, whether it's water or social interactions. You might hear, "At the beginning of the meeting, we played a game to break the ice." Or, "She told a funny story to break the ice on their first date." Okay. Now let's talk about the ball is in your court. This idiom means that it's someone's turn to make a decision or take action. It's pretty straightforward once you know it comes from tennis. When the ball is in your court, you're the one who needs to hit it back. Simple, but effective. An example could be, "I've done all I can. Now the ball is in your court." Or, "He made his offer, so the ball is in her court to accept or decline." Here's another good one. Cost an arm and a leg. If something costs an arm and a leg, it's ridiculously expensive. This idiom dates back to the 18th century when portraits were all the rage. Back then, the most detailed and expensive portraits included the entire body, not just the head and shoulders. So if you wanted a portrait that included your arms and legs, you were paying a premium. Funny how things stick, right? For example, that designer handbag costs an arm and a leg. Or they wanted to go on vacation, but the flights cost an arm and a leg. All right. How about let the cat out of the bag? This means to reveal a secret, often by accident. The origin is pretty amusing. In medieval markets, farmers would bring pigs to sell, and they were often transported in bags. Unscrupulous ones might try to trick buyers by putting a cat in the bag instead. If the cat got out, well, the secret was out too. You might say, "We were going to keep the party a surprise, but John let the cat out of the bag." Or, "She accidentally let the cat out of the bag about the company's new project." Let's switch gears a bit and talk about under the weather. If you're feeling under the weather, you're not feeling well. This idiom comes from maritime tradition. When a sailor was feeling seasick, they would be sent below deck, away from the bad weather. So being under the weather meant being ill. For instance, "I'm feeling a bit under the weather today, so I think I'll stay home." Or, "She's been under the weather all week with a cold." Idioms can be pretty tricky for language learners because they don't always translate well. But once you get the hang of them, They really do make conversations more lively and natural. And they're everywhere. Take spill the beans, for example. It means to reveal a secret, similar to letting the cat out of the bag. This one might come from ancient Greek voting practices where beans were used to cast votes. Spilling them would reveal the votes prematurely. For example, Tom spilled the beans about the surprise trip. Or, she's terrible at keeping secrets and always spills the beans. Speaking of food-related idioms, ever heard of a piece of cake? When something is a piece of cake, it's really easy to do. The phrase became popular in the 19th century and might be linked to cakewalks, a dance contest where the prize was a cake. It was considered easy and fun, hence the idiom. You could say, the exam was a piece of cake, or that project was a piece of cake for her. Ever heard the phrase the last straw? It means the final problem in a series of problems that make someone decide to do something. This comes from the proverb, the straw that broke the camel's back. Camels are strong, but even they have a limit. It's a great way to illustrate how one small thing can push someone over the edge. For example, when he yelled at me, it was the last straw. Or, the car breaking down was the last straw. She decided to buy a new one. It means that one little thing combined to all other things that are already causing a burden or a problem can push someone over the edge. That is, they can't take it anymore. All right, now let's go to another expression, barking up the wrong tree. If someone accuses you of barking up the wrong tree, they're saying you're pursuing the wrong course of action. This idiom comes from hunting dogs that might bark at the base of a tree, thinking their prey is up there when it's actually in another tree. Examples include, if you think I'm to blame, you're barking up the wrong tree. Or, the police are barking up the wrong tree with their suspect. Now, one of the most colorful idioms is burn the midnight oil. This means to work late into the night. It dates back to the days before electricity, when people used oil lamps to work or read after dark. It really gives you a sense of how people lived and worked. For instance, I had to burn the midnight oil to finish the report, meaning I had to work late for many hours into the night. Another example of how you can use it. She's been burning the midnight oil studying for her exams. Now this one, it is very, very common to hear when you are watching movies or series. Call it a day. This is very common idiom. Call it a day is another useful idiom. It means to stop working on something, usually because you feel you've done enough for the day. This one's pretty self-explanatory, but very common in everyday use. Examples include, let's call it a day and finish the rest tomorrow. In other words, let's stop working for now and finish the rest tomorrow. Another example is here. After 5 hours of meetings, we decided to call it a day. Do you get it? And finally, let's look at a blessing in disguise. This means something that seems bad at first, but turns out to be good. It's a lovely way to remind us that sometimes things that seem unfortunate can lead to positive outcomes. For example, her breakup was a blessing in disguise. She's much happier now. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of some of the most common and colorful idioms in the English language. I hope you found this both educational and entertaining. Idioms are such a fascinating part of language learning, adding depth and personality to our conversations. And remember, the more you encounter them, the easier they become to understand and use. Before we wrap up, I want to encourage you to try incorporating some of these idioms into your daily conversations. It's a fun way to practice and impress your friends with your newfound knowledge. If if you have any questions or need more examples, feel free to reach out to us on our social media channels or through our website. We're always here to help you on your language learning journey. Thanks for tuning in to FluentCast. Until next time, keep learning, stay curious, and don't be afraid to bite the bullet and dive into new challenges. Take care, everyone.
This episode was brought to you by Fluent English Academy, where learning English is fun and interactive. If you want to take your English skills to the next level, join us for personalized classes and lively conversation sessions with our expert teachers. Visit www.fluentenglishacademy.com.br and start your journey today. Don't just learn English, live it with Fluent English Academy.